Hey guys, it's Craig again. Super excited about this little talk I'm going to have. Talking to one of the most controversial people in the field, Bigfoot field, the Queen of Woo. And we're going to get right down to it. We're going to see where this goes. Like we talked about it in the pre-interview. We talked about it on the phone. We've talked about it. We're going to get weird. This might get weird. But let's see what we got. We got Miss Janice Carter. Let's bring her on the stage and see what we're going to go with this. Are you there, Janice?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you doing? Yeah,
Right.
it's a little slow, but it's all right. It'll be okay. Whoa.
Is it like?
We lost. Yeah, there's a delay
There we
now.
go.
There you
There I
are.
am.
All right. So anyway,
Yeah.
we can deal with the delay. It's cool because whatever.
Okay.
Let's just get to it. There you are. Now we're good. All right.
Okay.
So
Here I am again.
Janice Carter, the great Janice Carter. I am overjoyed to have you here. When you reached out and said you was willing to do this, it blew my mind.
Thank you.
And then when you contacted me and you were willing to go along with what the whole thing is actually your idea. And before I even said it, let's get weird. Let's get to it. If you guys are here to listen to Janice's story, not this show, we're probably not going to dip into that. So that being said, I'll let Janice take the floor for a few minutes, introduce herself. And then I've got a few questions real quick to kick this off. And then we're going to get weird with it. So Janice, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. I am Janice Carter, ex-Coy. I've been in this field ever since I was little. I didn't even know what research was when I first started. Mary Green and I published a book back in 2002. The name of it is 50 Years with Bigfoot, Coexistence, Tennessee Chronicles Coexistence. If you want to listen to that, it is free on YouTube. Go to Sasquatch Chronicles and you can listen to Lynn. She does a beautiful job of reading in the book for people. I'm not going to rehash my story. Most people know it by now if they've been in this field for a while. Of course, there are rumors, and I've ran the gauntlet for everything, but you can't make this stuff up. It don't happen. It's either real or you're living in some fantasy world denying it.
Right.
So,
and that goes right into some of my yes or no questions. If you want to go ahead and start that. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
These are just like 3-4 questions. Yes or no. We don't have to elaborate. So, do you believe in Bigfoot?
I know Bigfoot.
Okay. Is your address La La Land?
Not that I'm aware of.
So you don't live in La La Land. Okay.
No, I don't live in La La Land.
Do you by any chance play or own a flute?
No.
So you are not a flute player?
No.
Okay, that settles it. Let's get into this woo stuff then. Woo is not just the flute players, we're going to get into the woo. Like I've always said, woo is the broad term. Woo is stuff you don't understand. What me and Janice are going to talk about is stuff that actually can be related to science. There's testing that proves this stuff.
Yes.
People just got to open their horizons to the research. They can't just be tunneled down just Bigfoot. They've got to open their horizons because this is all huge. This is everywhere. Am I right or am I wrong, Janice?
You're absolutely right.
Awesome. So let's do it. Where do you want to start with? You want to take the field or you want to start with some of the questions I've got off of Facebook?
Let's start with some of the questions because a lot of people are curious and they don't know. And I have people email me. I have people message me every day. And if we could, for instance, John asked if they used fire. I'm going to start right there. We'll go from there.
There we go.
Okay. So do they use fire? Yes. They don't have a need for fire all the time because they basically eat their meat and stuff raw when they do kills. But when
They
they are
used to
making,
do years and years ago,
huh? Yeah, I mean,
like we used to do
indigenous,
back.
yeah, indigenous people used to, if you made a kill, for instance, if the American Indian made a kill of a buffalo, it was a common practice to take out the liver or the heart and eat it raw, to take a bite out of it. You know, you're giving back to the spirit of that animal and recognizing and thanking the God and the spirit and creator for allowing you to kill and that animal to sacrifice its life for you. It's
And that's
basically
still
the same
practiced today with
principle.
hunters today.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So yes, they do use fire. They do have herbal remedies. They, for instance, they may make a small fire, not to keep warm or anything, but to cook like a brew a tea. The maybe take catnip leaves and willow bark to make a type of aspirin that relieves pain, like a headache. You
And
know,
now
they
people will say right there, they'll say you're crazy right there, but they just documented. I'm going to get this wrong. It's either a chimpanzee or it's one of the other non-human primates. They just
right.
documented one that had a scar on its face or a wound on its face, and it was mixing up its own herbs and wiping them on its face to heal itself. This is actual scientific proof today that is happening that literally said what you just said. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
woo, but we can back it up. All right. I didn't mean
Yeah,
to
we can
interrupt
back
you.
it up. I can
Yeah.
back it up. If ever, and I'm not saying that people should go and watch other people. This is about us, so to speak. But if you go on Mountain Monsters and watch Jeff and Trapper and all them, it's in an old episode where they went out somewhere. I can't remember where they were, in West Virginia or where they were exactly, and they saw the fire down in the cave. That was what the Bigfoot were doing. They were making some sort of herbal tea, but immediately when the Bigfoot knew that they were there, what happened? They put the fire out.
Because
You
when
know.
you're saying fire, let's generalize that fire. We're not talking like what we would make like a huge bonfire or a signal fire. We're talking a necessity fire,
A
just enough to
necessity.
heat.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
necessity.
And then a two-parter to what John had said. He said, "Will they opportunistically use fire?" But I think you kind of answered that with what you
They
said. It's
will, but they will do
not a
that.
necessity, right?
And it's not a necessity. For instance, and I'll go ahead and mention names. I did research up in Indiana, and it was Christmas Tree Farm that we were on, and Kent had the owner of the property had cleared some brush, and he built a fire in that brush, to burn that brush off, and it was a
Right.
little close to the trees. The Bigfoot up there came out, and 3 times they put this fire out. We had to move the fire, the brush and stuff, so that they would leave it alone. But they put it out because they were afraid that it was going to catch the woods on fire.
That was going to be my question, whether they were preventing a larger fire. So they understand what fire is. So
Yeah, they know.
okay. Awesome. That was a great question. Thank you for answering that. I've got another one here. I'm not sure if this was a joke question or not, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
It's okay. We can have fun.
But I think what this guy might be referring to is some other stories. But what he asked was, and like I said, we're getting weird. He said, "Do Bigfoot like weed, like pot, marijuana, are they potheads or whatever?" And I'm not sure if that was a joke but I think maybe what
It's
he's
a
referring
legitimate
to
question, Craig. It is a legitimate question.
I'm
Uh,
not sure how he meant it because I didn't get in time to reach out to him. And I'm thinking maybe in my mind when I heard that, and the reason I even brought it up to you is maybe he's referring to, I've heard a lot of stories or like in California and those areas where they have the pot farms that, they'll run up on, and Bigfoots actually seem to protect the pot farm. They see what the people are doing and they kind of let them be. But if other people come up, they kind of steer them clear. And it seems like they're protecting. But I've never heard of them using or eating. But if they're using medicinal purposes for different things, like you say, a tea, there's a chance in it. But I'd like to hear your answer to that.
Okay, once again, the indigenous people did not think anything about using marijuana to, for spiritual reasons, religious reasons, or, and rights and stuff. Yes, Bigfoot do use marijuana. They'll chew it, they'll eat it, and it has its medicinal properties in it and the reasons they do it. I now go back and tell a little tale, and I don't know if everybody knows Ninja Dave, William David Henry or not, but he is my research partner. And the first time, well, it was actually the second time we met. We were going to go from a conference that we had over to the restaurant and eat. He opened the doors to his truck, and oh my God, the smell of marijuana would have knocked you down. And I told him, I said, okay, do you have marijuana in here? Because I didn't want to arrest it if we got pulled over,
Right.
Because I'm older than William.
Yeah.
And anyway, he said, no. He said it must have been from the people next door to where he lived. And I said, no, it wouldn't have lasted that long. Well, we got to looking, and there had been a Bigfoot inside his truck.
Wow.
I mean, there was hair, and if they ever touch your windows or basically anything, the oil on their skin, you cannot wash that oil off. It has to wear off. It takes months to wear off.
I'm blanking on the name of that oil, but do you remember the scientific name? So in case people, we produce it too, just not as much of it. I'm trying to blank. I'm blanking on it right now, but I know what you're talking about.
You and I both. Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep going in and out. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can hear you good now. You're just pausing for just a second, but like I said, this ain't live. It's okay. No worries. Yeah. We're not worried about our production value here. We're worried about getting the info and the knowledge out and the questions, no matter how deep we can go. That's what this is about.
Right.
But back to your point about them chewing on the leaves, I don't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to. But before you get back into your story, and we can relate that to nowadays too. The coca leaves that they might produce cocaine out of, people harvest that. They'll just chew on those leaves while they're picking, and it doesn't have the same effect as the drug does. It just gives them it's kind of like to us or something. And so I can definitely see where you're saying that they would just chew on the marijuana or whatever to a headache, a toothache, whatever they say that it does.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just like cloves. I mean, they'll use cloves, for instance. You know what a clove is, I'm sure, if anybody's ever had a hand.
Yeah. Not clothing, clove, CLOVE, clove. Yeah.
Yeah, it's clove. They'll use those. They'll chew on those, for toothache or a problem with their gums or mouth, canker sores, whatever you want to call it. Another, for instance, is it's illegal to grow comfrey now here in the States, but we used to mix comfrey leaves with pig lard and use it as a salve to heal wounds. They still do it. It still grows in the wild. You're just not allowed to, grow it yourself. Horse mint, catnip, you name it, they use it. They know what all these plants are, and they know the use for it, just like indigenous people and your Native Americans, or what we want to call witch doctors, for lack of a proper name, And it's not that we're witches. It's not that we're wickets or anything. It's just we retain the knowledge of herbal remedies from the past. And Correct. They do too.
And that's a good segue right there to, you've mentioned this the entire time we've been talking, and you've got another book that you're working on.
I have been working
like 17 years, because it's not a closed book, because it's an ever evolving thing. I mean, you've discussed this multiple times.
Yes.
And you keep saying indigenous people, just like indigenous people. Why don't you just go ahead and say what you think or what you feel Bigfoot are?
What I know Bigfoot are, based on the science behind them and the studies, and not what they say they are, okay? Because Bigfoot will tell you who they think they are.
Right.
They
Just like
are
we are the greatest thing ever been. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. But that said, I know that they are a type of people. I will stand my ground. I'll stand toe to toe to anybody that wants to say that they are a common stupid ape. They are a type of people. I've known that from the beginning, ever since I was a little girl. If it walks like a man, it talks like a man, it's basically a man. I am not saying that they are human like us. I never have, because they are different. The mother's side, which is the mitochondrial DNA, it is 100% Homo sapiens sapient.
Which is
The
us.
father's, which is us.
Yep.
The nuclear side, after you get back so far, we do not have anything that we have tested Denisova, we have tested Neanderthal, but it is something beyond that. We have, and you can't call them the Nephilim, you cannot call them aliens from outer space or anything. We just simply do not have anything DNA wise to test it and compare it against to know where that branches off and goes to. Once you get back so many thousands of years.
And you're referring to the Melba Ketchum study when you're saying
I'm referring to her study. There were blind studies done in that was farmed out to other
geneticists.
Thank you, because my mind went, bleh, what am I trying to say?
That's what I said.
And it all came back the same. There were 100 originally during the Erickson project, which I was a big part of. There were 105 individual Bigfoot that were tested. Now, when you get back the samples from 105 different individual Bigfoot that we have the DNA on. Okay. Now we are doing the Genome Project, and we are trying to pick it back up and continue where we left off. And I'm probably going to get in trouble, but I'm just going to say it to heck. I don't care anymore. You know, they can come gunning for me or what the hell ever. But that said, 30 minutes before we were going to go live press, they shut us down and gave us gag orders. Melba suffered so bad from this. I mean, she's basically lost everything she has. She can't get a job. She can't get, no income or anything else, because totally ridiculed.
Mm-hmm.
And they blacklisted her. If she goes and tries to get a job, say for instance at McDonald's, she's blacklisted. She can't even get a job at McDonald's. And this is damn ridiculous. All because we were bringing the truth to people.
Now, I will touch on some of your story right here, because I've been in contact with some people lately that they don't know that I know you.
Exactly.
And they were telling me stories that were blowing my mind, because it was the same thing that you've told me about the blacklisting that's happened to them, about the well, they didn't go into the in-depth about the blacklisting, but they went into, you've spoken about how they broke in and stolen only your Bigfoot research, and everyone says right then, that's crazy. This person said the exact same thing. This person said they're breaking into their stuff. They're warning me about it. They're telling me blah, blah, this, blah, blah. Literally the exact same thing you've told me, and you don't know this person, and they don't know you, and no one knows that I knew you until now.
Right, exactly.
The same story, and there's more of your story that's been collaborated too. And like I said, no one knows. Everyone knows I know people, but no one knows who I am.
Exactly. And this does happen. I'm here to tell you. You go out and you can have the best documentation of it that you could possibly get. And I cannot take a photo of anything, not even my children, that looks worth a flying shit in a handbasket. Okay. And I'm just going to say it. But
I'm the same
that's
way.
it.
I'm the same way. I get knocked too, but you get hit a little harder because you have more opportunities. But why didn't I get a better picture? I'll tell you, I can't. I'm not a photographer. And when I do see this stuff, I'm shaking. You're shaking a little bit. You're out there in the woods. You're not on a pedestal. You're not getting. That's why we're getting the blurry photos. And I'm with you when you say even with your story, you couldn't get a good photo. I mean, I'm looking at you right now, and you're not holding the phone still. I mean,
I know. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's as far fetched. No, I'm just saying I don't think it's as far fetched as people say when why didn't you get a photo? Well, I'm the exact same way now, differently, but like I'm interrupting you. But this is again, it's like Dr. John. Y'all knew what y'all signed up for. I've gotten in trouble recently for not taking pictures of my kids at particular events or Christmas or birthday parties. I've gave up on doing that because I'm so focused on what I see in my little screen that there's emotions going on. There's this, there's that, there's everything in the background, and the picture taking is causing tension, and I'm not living in the moment. And I'll guarantee you, I couldn't take a picture of a Bigfoot to save my life. I mean, it literally take this perfectly still picture or you're dead. I love my kids. I'm probably dead. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And then if they don't want you to take a picture, and it's the older crowd of them, and I'm calling them Bigfoot, that they don't call themselves that. They call themselves the people, basically in every language that you could possibly get from them. They call themselves the people. If you ask them who they are, they think they were here before we were, before mankind, they were the first creation. And they do have their own belief system. And it's not exactly religion like we would think it is. A religion, it's no dogma into Christianity or any of that stuff. But they do believe that they were created before our type of mankind, and they were the first creation. When God says, go forth and multiply, and, in the earth, they were the first people.
This is totally changing off of that. But when you said go forth and multiply, that's actually one of my questions. And I know, you've talked about this 100 times, but I'm blanking. And if I have the question, someone else has this question. So when you say go forth and multiply, here's a couple of mine. Do they mate? I know you've answered this 100,000 times.
Yeah.
Do they mate for life, or do they?
They generally, no, they mate. They usually take a mate or wife. Okay, a male can have more than one spouse. It's
like a pride, like a lion pride or whatever.
Yeah, he can have as many wives as he is physically able to support, because it is a male's job to sort of be leader of the family group, of the clan, or what have you. However you want. Yeah. If he can provide for 4 wives, he can have 4 wives. If he can't, then he only has 1 wife, for instance. Okay.
So they have emotions then.
Yeah.
They understand.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And if the first wife is the matriarch. She is the one that gets to say, hey, you don't get any other mates. I'm it, However, if he cheats on her, it is not considered a bad thing necessarily in their social structure and society. However, if she cheats on him, there are severe consequences for that. But if she wants a divorce from him, all she has to do is set his stuff outside, basically, and say, this is it. I don't want you anymore.
That's interesting. I don't have anything to say back to that part. But I do have more questions. So
okay, that's fine.
So it kind of, sort of, maybe, do they mate for fun? Would that be kind of what you just touched on right there about him not cheating?
Yes, they will mate.
Us and dolphins are the only ones that mate for fun.
Oh no, they mate for fun. There is a female that I've known for years, a female Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call her, and she is very promiscuous. She doesn't have a regular mate. She is what we would consider a prostitute.
Yeah,
And
okay.
she just has great fun with it. She's a loose Bigfoot woman.
Well, I mean, and that goes along with a lot of people saying, and a lot of people, even in the non flute player or the woo field, they'll say that a lot of them are like, well, we think, are you afraid of them or this? Why do you think it did that? Like, even people that have these different experiences say, well, they're probably different, like human. There's good humans and there's bad humans. So why wouldn't that be like you say, promiscuous women or promiscuous men, or why not? If they are a people and they do almost seems like mimic what we do, or we mimic them perhaps if they are before us, whatever, then why not? And then since we're talking about the reproduction,
Mm-hmm.
how often do they reproduce? Like, do they reproduce, like a woman?
Okay, their gestation, the woman's gestation period is the same as ours, approximately 9 months to 10 months. They can carry over, just like we can. They can have premature, but that said, yeah, and it depends on resources. As long as they breastfeed naturally their babies. As long as they're breastfeeding, it's used as a form of birth control. And they don't usually have another child until that child's about 3 years old. Now there are exceptions to the rules. They do have their own form of birth control. And this, once again, goes back to indigenous people. How did Native Americans or the people over in Europe that were, back during the caveman times or whatever, they knew the plants to use to keep from getting pregnant.
All right.
But I mean,
why not?
Just
I mean,
like
it
us
goes
when
right
it comes
along
to
with
that.
it's not that crazy to think, but I didn't have an answer to any of these questions. These were 100% questions I didn't have any answers to or knowledge of.
Yeah.
So I don't have nothing to throw back at you with my own questions. If you want to go in with another question, because I like the way we're going. We're just willy nilly with this. I like it.
Okay.
I got a good buddy of mine. He's had an experience, and it's the same experience everyone's had, but it's a personal experience to me because I know this guy real well and I know what it's done to him. And he's had a vocalization like he heard the vocalization, and it was so loud that it vibrated, and we've not went into the infrasound because he doesn't think he was sick so much as just overwhelmed, but he wants to know like what all, and I've got questions off of this that I know he would ask. What his was the vocalizations, and then he saw it. But what all vocalizations do they make? Do they only talk and scream and mimic owls, or do they, can they do?
They have their own language. They can talk in any given dialect that I call native to the area. For instance, a lot of them talk in English. If they were around, I'll take Ron Moorhead's and Al Berry's recordings as an example. Oh gosh, my mind went blank.
Well, that goes into my next question with the sounds. Are they generalized to certain areas, or do all Bigfoot can make these sounds? But you're about to explain that.
Yeah. But okay, so they went out there. This has been years ago. I was a little girl at the time. There is no way I was involved in those recordings. Okay.
Well, we both know Ron, and he can attest to that.
Yes. Yeah. That said, Scott Nelson has verified that it is a language. He is a naval linguist.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's verified Right. He's verified that it is a language. A lot of it, what they're speaking out there, and their names are Nasari and Wahop and I'm trying to think of the younger one's name, um, Roderick. Um, and this is what their names are.
And
And they're
this is
communicating.
not what Ron named them or Al named them or you named them. This is what they hear in the
This
recording.
is, yes, this is what I hear in the recordings. When they are trying to communicate with Ron and the men out there, all those years ago, they are using English. But because the sound comes more from the diaphragm than it does from the throat or the mouth, like ours does, it's a little complicated to understand them. And they are talking with an Irish accent, which makes it a little bit more warped. But for instance, I know everybody hears this and they think they're just mimicking owls, but um, the female, which is Woolhump, she says, "Who, who are you all?" But she sings song in it out. It's like, who are you all? And then the male pipes in and he says, "Goodwill you want." It's backwards sentence structure. He's asking them if they want goodwill. If they're there, they come in peace. They want to interact with them. And he is just real deep, and I can't possibly get that deep because they go into hurts that we can't possibly reach.
Right.
And he said, "Goodwill, you what?" And Ron does something. He replies with a hoot or something. I can't remember what. And he says, and then he says, "Good, you're here to talk." But the T is not pronounced the same as what ours. So it sounds like he says, "Good, you're here to talk." You know. Then she says they had obviously, I mean, these people tell the story. I never read Ron's book or any of them's book, didn't know the background or anything. I knew the background because I could understand the Bigfoot, because I've been around my Bigfoot, Fox and his family, from the time I was 7.5 years old. And I was fascinated with him. So I said, okay, Ron and them made a kill of a bear and a deer. She is sings out, "I want some of that." You know, she's trying to get them to understand that they want some of that. They go down there, and when you hear him going, and hollering and screaming in pain, he had dumped the coffee pot on top. It was a hot coffee. Had dumped it on top of his foot because they were arguing over something that she picked up. And he tells her to put it back. He says, "Well, put it back." And she says, "No, mine, 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 mine." And they're arguing and carrying on.
That's the
And
samurai
then,
shatter.
yeah. And then he takes and dumps that coffee pot on himself, you know, the hot coffee. So he is moaning and screaming and howling in pain. An airplane passes by over the top. He gets quiet. The minute the engines of the airplane sound is gone, he goes back to moaning, groaning, and yelling again. Then it goes to some other recordings. They mimic birds. They can mimic any animal, and they will get down pat with how it sounds. For instance, Winnie Bojo, which I call Bo or Boo, which is Foxy's son-in-law. Fox has been dead since 2010. I want to say that. But anyway, Bo rooster. They learned how to pray like a donkey. He learned how to do other sounds. But I listened to this doggone Bigfoot stand outside in the field right down from my house, crowing like a rooster until he got the sound down pat. It took him about 3 weeks to do it. They practiced. Then I had company one evening, and they were aware that we had Bigfoot on the property and whatnot at the old farm.
This is back at the old farm. Okay.
Yeah, back at the old farm. That said, Bo, it sounds like a squirrel that is fixing to go up the tree. You know how a squirrel chatter and bark
Yeah.
when it, like to sound a warning. But this is in the middle of the night. This is like 12 o'clock at night. So you start off with this squirrel sound. Then you get the deer sound. Have you ever heard a deer? They huff and they make a blowing sound, and then they all make a sort of a, it's not quite like a goat, but it's not an elk either.
They'll blow to let you know, to kind of know that they know you're there and this and that. Yeah.
Yeah, halfway up this tree. Then he gets up to the top. If donkeys fly, please let me know. Because he started braying.
They do fly. I've got one in the backyard.
Okay. Well, this isn't Shrek. This is for real. But that said, he gets up there in that top of the hill, the top of the tree, and he starts braying like a donkey. And I'm like, no way. No way. You've given your location. We know exactly where you're at because you're a dum-dum, But they will. A lot of times when people hear that owl, what they think is an owl sound, it isn't an owl. They're simply asking you one word sentence. Who?
And you said this. So trying to think how to phrase this. When they speak, you describe it as a certain way. It's sped up.
It's three times faster than, they don't recognize the period at the end of the sentence. They don't pause at the end of the paragraph. They read the entire book before they stop. And it's like a download of information at one whack.
That's another thing that I got operated with recently. Like same person that don't know you, don't know, they said they could hear them talk. I sent them a few recordings, let them listen to, because that's my thing, to farm it out, because I don't have time to do it all. So I farm out some of my research. And you don't hear the sing-songing, same thing you say. And then they were like, oh, you can listen to their vocalizations. I'll send them to you. You got to slow them down and change that pitch just a little bit, because we can't get that pitch and they're speeding way too fast. And I'm just like, my mind is over here blown because y'all don't know each other.
Right. Well, here's what I tell people. Okay, record them at the speed, and I've used Marantz recorders and everything else, military high-tech recorders. I've had a lot of high-tech equipment over the years. But if you were an old record player, you know what an old platinum record player is? Okay.
Yeah, we have.
All right. So if you record them at, I think it's 16, that goes really, really fast, and it sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah, I won't correct you because I know what you're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Slow it down to a 33 album speed. So when you record them, let them go. But when you play it back to listen to it, slow it down 3 times. That way you can start to understand what they are saying. And then you want to take out that background noise if you have a way possible to do it.
Yeah. I think you more than answered his question, because I added on to some of it. Like, is there sounds that only certain ones make? Like, do the males only sound this way, or the female, or the juvenile? And you did touch on some of that.
Yeah, the juveniles can be high pitched, just like us.
Like a child. Do they go through puberty?
Yeah, they go through puberty. Yep, the voice changes. A lot of your older males are deep voiced. It's really deep. And a lot of people mistake them as growling when they're simply saying hello, The females, a lot of them are higher pitched, and I don't know how to explain this except you've heard those annoying female women that are sort of whiny.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of them are
Not
that
because they're
way.
just annoying, but because they can't help it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I got a deeper voice. I smoke cigarettes, and I've got a rough voice for a woman, I think, personally. Because if I listen to myself, it sounds like I'm really old and I need to quit smoking. But at any rate, that said, you know, um, a lot of them have high pitched voice. Some of them have normal voices, like any other woman on the planet.
Um,
But they do speak a lot faster than we do.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I definitely wanted to touch on that, and I didn't have that part wrote down. But like I said, I I'm getting phone calls constantly, text messages, connections. It's pretty crazy, and they're corroborating what you're saying
Mhm.
or what this person's saying or what this person's saying, and I don't tell them that you're here or they're here or they're here, and they're just this location's got this going
Right.
on. Yeah.
Well, Craig, my biggest validation, and I always wanted, and I'm going to sort of rehash a little bit here. Okay. I contacted back in 2002 because nobody here in the United States would believe me. And a couple of friends of mine, Mary Greed, suggest that I contact Dmitry Bayanov and Igor Borsov. At the time, they were curators of the Darwin Museum and in hominology. Here in this country, we don't recognize hominology. We don't recognize the study of hominids, which came before us. But over there, they still do. Yes, we run across. I'm sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat. Hang on just a second.
Oh, you're fine. You're speaking they're from Russia, and I touched on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Last episode with Dr. John, I didn't speak on those two scientists, but I did speak on the fact that
Mhm.
Russia and the Soviet Union, they have a little more free reign when it comes to studying things, and they can get into some of
Yeah.
this more eccentric and esoteric stuff, and
Yeah.
it
That
opens your
said,
mind if
I,
you can.
I did contact him because Mary had given me, or no, Dallas Gilbert gave me the book. The first book that Dimitri had written, besides a fact, not fiction. They did do the study on the Patterson Gimlin film back whenever it was, and they authenticated that film as real. Patty is a real Bigfoot that walks across through there. If you want to go to M.K. Davis's site, he can tell you all the details behind that and what actually did happen out there. Okay, um, and but that said, they had a story that was dated back in the 1800s of a Bigfoot woman over there that was captured by, I can't remember where the exact location was, but she was captured. She had children by men who raped her. They abused this woman. Okay, she was a Bigfoot woman, but still they abused her and everything. Um, but she had children. Her descendants, her great grandchildren now are alive. That said, I said, I have to contact them. If they know this much, then they'll believe me. Dimitri interrogated me one side and down the other. Every question he asked 50 different ways. I don't
Mhm.
change my answer. It's not going to change because I'm not making up fairy tales for entertainment purposes. I could care the hell less. I Where I work now, I had out in a little town in a little tobacco store to try to have some peace of mind because all these people that come in and they want to ridicule you, they want this answered, that answered, and I'm not. I like my audience and I like the people who ask questions and I like to help people in this field of research. But there is times if honest to God, they keep me on 24/7, 365 days a year,
Oh
and
yeah,
it would
you've reached
never
out to me
stop.
at some random times, and I just start time framing. And it's like you're awake at this time, and like you've told
Yeah.
me, people are contacting you. Like we were going to do this Sunday, and you actually had stuff to do.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and but people don't understand. And I've actually been contacted by oodles of people. Hey, don't lose your mind in this. Don't get sucked into this. You're going to get this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think I am, even though I'm deep in this. Like I said, I have a support system, and they allow me my Bigfoot time. So, and I think everyone you need your Bigfoot time, and you need your Janice time. You know, just because you are who you are, you still got to have Janice time. That's what I said. No one asks about Janice. Everyone says, Janice, what are you doing? Not how are you, you know?
Yeah, how are you doing, or are you available for this? Because it's just like today, I had 25 people today. They're messaging me. They want to know this, that, or the other. And while I try to answer them, I'm like, please be patient because I can't get to everybody in one day. And I spread myself thin. And right now, I'm trying to have a relationship with this guy that I met who is a pretty cool fellow. He's saying be quiet. But at any rate, and he's sitting over here massaging my feet, which feel wonderful. But at any rate, but he has to sit here and be bored while I'm doing this. He's shaking his head. No, he's not bored. But anyway,
that's what a lot of people don't understand. With even though he's supporting you and he's saying he's not bored, he might not be into it as well as you are. Or he might be into it, but he's definitely not as deep as you because of your experience. And that's the same situation I've got. My support system could care less that I'm out here talking to you. They're just like, hey, you could be out here running the roads with it, but you're learning, you're doing this and you're that. And it's actually, like I've said multiple times, you get to go as a family to these parks or to these, you know, if it is a conference that you go to, well, it's an outing. It's fun. Make it fun. That's what people forget.
Yeah.
And they force you into working at Bigfoot where they forget this whole thing is about enjoying life and about enjoying the experiences. And you got to enjoy that for so long, your whole life. And then when you did tell your story, then it became work. And now
it became work.
Yeah. And people don't understand that. And that'll burn you out. And when people get frustrated with you, you don't respond. Well, like they don't know. You're probably getting 800 messages a day, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But that said, okay, back to around, I'm going to circle the wagon again, go back to the, so I contacted Dimitri and Igor. In 2004, Igor came to visit. He was only supposed to stay for 4 weeks. He ended up staying almost for 6 weeks to verify that I did have. They did, National Geographic came and filmed us while he was there. They didn't put anything of significance. They filmed us for 48 hours. Wouldn't even let me put a bra on. Excuse me. Steve Summers will roll over in his grave because he fussed at me for not having a bra on. And I said, they wouldn't even let me get dressed in the morning. They wouldn't even let me change clothes, you know.
And that's how production companies are. And that's what I say about this is my show. No one's telling me what to do because I've already been involved with that. Where like you literally what you just said. So what they come down to do is show your credibility, but what they ended up doing was making you look like
a fool.
Yeah,
an absolute fool. Me and Igor
that leans you way more over to the side, and it actually hurts who you are as a person. And people don't understand that.
Yeah, they took the worst. They didn't show that we had gotten foot cast. Igor did foot cast of Squeaky, who is a crippled one. He's now grown. He's huge now, but at the time he was a child. You know, Squeaky is a Bigfoot. And I'm sorry, I talk about him and I forget to say, this is a Bigfoot I'm talking about. But he was a child at the time. He's got a club foot. It turns inward. His right foot turns in toward the center of his left foot when he walks that way because his cannon bone or his leg bone is twisted. But he gets around just fine. Trust me, he isn't handicapped in any way, shape, or form. He can run 45 miles an hour, you know.
It's like a dog with 3 legs seemed to run faster than a dog with 4. You know, I mean, they learn to use their disadvantages as advantages.
Right. So, at any rate, Igor stayed, and National Geographic took the worst 10 to 15 minutes that they could find, and that's what they aired.
because that's
Oh,
clickbait. And that's that reality TV that everybody wants. All that
oh yeah, that's reality TV.
false drama
Hmm.
that gets, and that's what gives Bigfoot a bad name. And that, I mean,
Yeah,
people make fun of me left and right because of the TV shows. Oh, look at this person. Or like you just said, this is what they do. And then when they take the time out to see what these people are portraying us as,
right.
they're really not
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But that's
The
what
me,
got them their
yeah,
money, because they're only
yeah.
worried about the money. And if
Oh
me and
yeah,
you were worried about the money, trust me, you wouldn't be working 7 days a week at a tobacco store, because with the information,
no,
vice versa, it's not about the money.
yeah,
People
I can
say, why
make
don't you dig up Fox? And what would you do with the money? It's more
no.
problems. It's more drama,
No,
more
why
problems.
would I go out and dig up fox? That would be like digging up my grandfather. I don't want somebody going out and digging my grandfather up just for the hell of it, or
Because it's
just for
desecrating grave. You wouldn't do
scientific
that. You wouldn't
purposes.
do that to even an Indian grave or anything. You wouldn't
No,
do it.
no, no. If I'm out and I get aggravated sometimes with William, if we run across an arrowhead, I was taught do not pick up an arrowhead because my grandmother was Native American. Okay, it's because people put a little bit of themselves into stuff that they make, okay? Even
Yeah.
though they're deceased. All right.
Mhm.
So I'll go and I'll just pass right on over an arrowhead. William has to stop and pick it up and say, "Oh, look what Jan just stepped over." And I'm like, "Don't do that. Don't pick it up." And then I'll tell him, "Okay, fine. If you want it, take it home with you. I don't want it." You know. Um, and the Bigfoot do make arrowheads and have flint tools, different types of
For
tools
what?
that they make themselves.
For,
But I'll come back around to that. So anyway, Igor has visited many, many times, um, and I told him, I said, Igor, you have to put that freaking camera down. As long as you carry that camera with you, you're not going to get anywhere with them because a lot of them shy away. They don't want their picture taken, and they'll shy away from someone with a camera.
and if you
That
go back to
said,
the indigenous people, didn't they think that with cameras, if you took a picture of them, they stole their soul?
yes,
Was that?
and the Bigfoot do too, especially the older generation. The younger generation, they're like, oh, okay, it's fine. Go ahead and take a picture of me. A lot of them. But you still have to ask them permission. If you don't ask permission, they aren't going to allow you to take that picture. That said, so there was an opportunity for Igor to study in his country. The They call them Amos or Amasi or abominable snowman Yeti in his country with a young man who had them coming. Okay. Igor, I told him, I said, you're going to have to go out there. They took an armored truck, a military truck out there, set up. Yes, the Bigfoot came in. There is something else with them, and we'll get into that here in a minute with
This
those
is in
Bigfoot.
with here in the
This is
States, or this is back in
no, this is it. This is in Siberia.
okay.
Well,
Because we
actually,
will touch on other things with Bigfoot in the States too, I hope. Maybe not in this,
oh
but
yes,
we will
yes,
definitely get into that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But at any rate, so because Igor's seen him here in the States also, but at the time he hadn't up until 2020. Okay, so he goes out there and he listens to what I'm saying and he puts that camera down. Dargon, which is a Bigfoot over there in Russia, comes up, strokes the side of Igor's face, and shakes his hand.
Now,
Igor
are
said,
they the
I was
same size over there as over here? Or is it just
Dargon's 10 foot tall. Gisha Greg, which translates to Greg in English, he is approximately right at 8 foot tall. There's one that's called, no, Dargon is, Dargon's a little taller than Greg. The biggest one over there is Daff in that particular group.
and is Greg the one that can drive?
Yes, Greg's the one that can drive. He knows how to drive the tractor. He sort of knows how to drive a car, but cramming his big butt in there is a little awkward, to say the least. He does a lot better on the farm tractor.
I remember when you
He can
first told me about that, it blew my mind. And it was one of those, I put that into the story, and I've told you this to your face, so this ain't the first time anybody's heard it. That I put that in the category of that is wild, but what if? And since you've told me that story, I've actually heard multiple people tell me the same story, and I've heard similar stories that had nothing to do with him, of driving or of taking pictures. So now I don't know if they're playing off of you guys or what, but like without really investigating them, you got to take everything for their word, and that's pretty.
Well, I'm going to tell you this much. Okay, if you allow for people who come forward and they say, "Hey, this has happened, that's happened," if you allow 10% of that as being truth, you think of how many reports worldwide we have.
Mm-hmm.
That's an overwhelming amount of evidence that collaborate with each other.
It's like they say with UFOs and stuff, it don't matter if every story's wrong, but one's true. It only takes that one person to prove it. It's the same. Not saying we're wrong or you're wrong or anyone's wrong or everyone's right, but that's what everybody's look is. Well, I'm the one that's going to prove it. I'm the one that's going to prove it. Let's just say, let's prove, or as you say, so there's no proving to you, and you don't have to prove to anyone. And that's what you've helped me along. And we talked about that on the phone and in person multiple times. The reason you've helped me out so much is because of how I'm wanting to do this. I'm not wanting to do this for the fame or the fortune or the proving. It's for my experience and my own understanding of it. And I go into it, and you reached out to me and I don't know where I was going with that, but it kind of resembled. It leads into this next question. I think I know it took away from Igor and them and Greg and them, but
anyway, with Igor and them, I feel like I was validated. Dimitri validated me. Igor validated me. I've never steered them wrong. I didn't tell them everything that is out there, but I am simply known for the Bigfoot. That's not saying that there isn't a lot of other things out there in the woods that we run up against.
And I definitely want to get in on that because I've been getting a lot of contacts that are telling me about something else near where me and you know about. And I actually brought it up on a podcast that I was on. Was asking me about one of these characters. And I was like, I just laughed it off and told him I didn't care. And you were the one telling me the stories. And I was like, I got too much.
And it's like, here's my solid proof. I gave it to Igor. He matters the most to me because Igor is getting up there in age. And I thought, if I can just prove it to Igor and he can get his own case, it will work wonders. So now they have
person though. You were doing it for him. You weren't doing it for any fame. For him to have his own
fame or nothing. I just wanted him to have his own. And now over in Russia, they have an actual Bigfoot day. They know they're real over there. They have and they call them indigenous something and other people now. Why can't we do that here in the States?
Politics, money,
government, you name it.
You
can't give them a social security card. You're not going to round them up and put them on a reservation. It's not going to happen. I'd like to see them round up a medium-sized Bigfoot and do that.
Well, you actually, I didn't write this down, and I don't know if I've even ever asked this before, but it's been in my head to ask someone, and you brought it up. You said put them on reservations. Is that where state parks came from?
No, Teddy Roosevelt actually started, I think Eisenhower may have somewhat, setting aside places that were, as national parks.
Why did they pick these certain areas? Because it seems like a lot of reports. A lot of reports in state parks.
I could not.
A lot of reports in state parks.
I know the reason that the Bigfoot are there. I don't know why our government picked to set aside
Oh,
these
so it could be
particular
two different
parks.
reasons. So it could be the opposite handle. We put a state park in, and then Bigfoot come in because they were protected by being in
They're
that park.
protected there. It's like any
Okay.
wildlife reserve. They're
Yeah,
protected
like deer
because,
know that in a wildlife reserve, you're not going to shoot them.
yeah,
They know that.
exactly.
So why? Yeah.
And
Okay.
they
Awesome.
and the Bigfoot know that. So do the dogmen. So do the imps. So do the pugweegies and all the other stuff that is out there. Okay, and I just
Before we get
touched
into
on a couple.
Dogman, let me get this one last Bigfoot question, and then we can do, because I was going to reach out to, I actually did the other day ask you, hey, there's some other stuff going on I need to know about,
Yep.
and that'd blow you off. Let me ask this last question. So the same guy that had the experience, I told you it was real. It's a personal one to me, even though it didn't happen to me. And this is a really good question. I like it. Do Bigfoot target certain types of people to present themselves to? Kind of like, you know how like a dog or a cat will come to you because they can kind of sense your intentions. And me and John touched on this a little bit about intent, but we didn't touch on it, their intent. He's saying perhaps in his experience, I think this is what he's saying. Did the Bigfoot show itself to him, if that's what he experienced, because of who he was, or he just happened to be in the right place, right time, or wrong place, wrong time? Or do you think that with them being people, they sense your intent and they can put out an intent and they will show themselves to those with good intent? Or that manifests the experience you have, I guess, because you do have the hunter's experiences that are ill. So if you're putting out the bad energy, are they going to show you bad energy? Is that how you feel?
Yes and no. They do sort of pick the people that they interact with on a regular basis. But perchance there's a hunter out there. They're out there hunting, and I'm not going to mention any names here. And the hunter is hunting the same deer, for instance. Okay. Yes, they made their presence known. Yes, they threw a rock. They hit this hunter in the chest with this rock. It put a great big old bruise on him, broke one of his ribs, because that was their deer. He didn't have a good experience with them. This, uh, a bad experience. But yet
Well, I
he
mean, if
saw
we go to
them,
try to take
you
a deer
know.
from a lion, the lion's not going to just walk away from us. They're going to be pissed. I could understand that. I could definitely see what
Yeah.
you're trying to say there.
But for instance, I've taken so many people out in the woods with me, and they'll say, "Oh, I've learned more in 20 minutes than I learned on any program on TV or anybody that I've talked to." I'll say, "Okay, this," and I like to take them to Grumpy, which you are very familiar with that area. And I'm just
Yeah,
going to say where it's at. It's Standing
that's
Stone
fine.
National Park. And everybody knows, I mean, all these big groups and everything know about Standing Stone. That said, I would take people out there and introduce Grumpy to them. Now, Grumpy does what I call scanning. He also telepaths. Here we go into the woo part. Okay. There is a science behind telepathy.
There
If
is.
you
I
go,
agree. I touched on
yeah,
that with Dr. John. Also, yeah, I agree.
yeah. Okay. That said, when I go into Grumpy's, I simply talk to him like I would with any other person. And it appears like I'm talking to the woods, but I know when he's there and when he's not. Okay. And I've had people with me that have had knives in their pockets, just something as simple as a pocket knife. If he doesn't trust that person, but he trusts me, for instance, he'll say to me way through telepathy that he wants me to take and ask for the knife and me hold that knife because he knows that I'm not going to do anything to harm him.
Right.
I've had them that had guns in under the seats in their car, a hidden concealed weapon. And the car is 50 yards away from where we're at. And he'll say, "Oh, you need to tell so-and-so that they need to give you that gun to hold for a while." And
And to
then he
clarify,
will.
when you take people out, when you say you take people out, let's just say this. you are not guaranteeing them to see a Bigfoot or even have a Bigfoot experience. You're just taking them to an area where you can see the signs and you can show them and you can kind of lead them into that area. They might get it on that time, but they might have to constantly go back. You are not a magnet.
Yeah, they might have to. I'm not a magnet, although sometimes I've gone up there and they not even be around. I've gone out in my own backyard when I lived on the farm. They weren't there. I'm sorry, I can't show you a Bigfoot. I can't make them decide whether or not they're going to interact with you. Come out in the open, or do anything that.
You lived with them for 50 years. You didn't have them in your house in the bed with you. You were on a farm. No. There's 365 days in a year. You didn't see them 365 days a year for 50 years. That's what people aren't understanding. And that's why I didn't want to get into your story, because that's been said. And if they don't understand that, then they're not going to understand anything else we're saying, I think, if they've heard your story.
Yeah, I don't guarantee that you are going to see a Bigfoot if I take you with me.
But I will say that you have told me every single time that I have sent you a picture, you have told me the exact location of where I'm at, and there is no one that can tell me otherwise. And you are nowhere near where I'm at, like in physicality. These are pictures. I can send you a picture a week from after I took it or whatever, and you know exactly where I'm at and what's going on and this. And you have told me what to do, this, that, and other, and I've done those things, and it has led to experiences. Now, that's because I've took from your education. And that's what this whole thing is about, is to educate. We're not saying Janice Carter will hand you to a Bigfoot. We're saying follow some of Janice Carter's research, some of what she's doing now, what I'm doing now, what everyone's doing now. Everybody's throwing a hand in the fire, and we're going to get this dialed down. It's still got to be a perfect situation for all this to happen, but people aren't
And I don't know, Craig. I've never asked you if you've seen one yet. Eventually you will. If you keep going up there, you're going to see Shewig, Grumpy, or at least the Simpsons. Be leery of the Simpsons because Homer looks like a 14-foot tall person with Down syndrome. Mm-hmm. And they love to use the infrasound. Going back to that, it's the Simpsons do. But there's more than just the few. And we give them the nicknames. It's easier than saying a lot of their names, because a lot of their names is their own language, and getting it translated to something that we understand is a little complicated at times.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I don't know all their language. I do know a lot of words and a lot of sentences and what they mean, but that doesn't mean I know it all. I'm no expert on this. The only reason I know is because I sat for hours and I would write their words down in little notebooks that my grandfather would get me. I still use notebooks. I have a ton of notebooks over here with just jotted down notes. Yeah, like you.
I've got them everywhere,
And that's why the book that I have been working on for the past 17 years is never going to be completed. I need to just start publishing a little at a time and be done with it,
That's kind of where I started this at, is because I've got stuff everywhere. And if something did happen, not saying that I'm something in the field that people need to follow with my research or my evidence, but I'm getting things from everywhere and all across the country. And now I'm even getting stuff overseas, which is blowing my mind. But I'm getting it all together, and I'm not trying to write a book, but if I can put a piece together here or there for somebody else that I don't have, I've got your research, somebody else's research, and somebody else. I know where they connect the dots, but this person over here doesn't, and they've got that last puzzle piece. And that's kind of where I'm going with this whole thing, is by asking questions that I feel like I already know the answer to, that other people don't, or maybe I'll word it a little different. But this is all learning, and I'm loving it. Yeah.
That jigsaw puzzle is a never-ending puzzle, because the thing is with the Bigfoot, the minute you think you have them figured out, they're going to throw a monkey wrench into the gears and change it up.
Well, and not only that, I could see that. Say I mean, if I lived in my house all the time and lived here for 20 years, then all of a sudden I got some unruly neighbors that come out throwing house parties every day. You're not going to see me in my yard very often until that people
No.
leave. So it'd be the same as if we're saying we're walking into a Bigfoot yard and we're being unruly or disrespecting the nature or whatever. Why would they show up? But if they and also as big as they are on the calories they have to expend. And I asked you this on the phone, and I'll ask you this also because I asked John about do they eat poop, and you picked up exactly what I was saying and you ran with it. But
yeah,
they can't have all their resources. Yeah, the woods are their grocery store, but it ain't compact like Walmart. It's huge. So my home might be a tent, might be a 20,000 square foot home, but it's still their home is acres. So they're not going to come back to that exact stool every single night and sit on that same stump and eat their meal. They could be everywhere. No. And that's what people I don't think are grasping that part of the concept.
Yeah. I mean, they are opportunists. I mean, for instance, people say, oh, they sighted one in the city. Okay. Yeah. I can take you up here to Knoxville, Tennessee, in behind the Walmart up there. And they go dumpster diving all the time because guess what Walmart does? The rotisserie chicken and all the leftovers from Subway and everything goes in the dumpster.
Hey, I've heard that.
Easy meal. Times. It's easy meal,
They've actually got it on video at like an Indian reservation at a casino with one dumpster diving. I can't remember exactly where, but I mean, that's not a one-off thing being in a city or being that close to humans. Why wouldn't they be that close to humans? Because it's easier for them to get food because we are the most wasteful thing on the planet,
Oh, yeah, we are, and they're, no, they don't hunt all the time 24/7. They are not, grazing or whatever, like a herd of cattle, But yes, they do have to eat, and their calorie intake is a lot more than ours, because we have like a 2,000, or is it? Yeah, I think it's 2,000.
Yeah, that's the last one I've seen. Anyway.
Yeah, that we need every day to sustain ourselves. Theirs is more like a 6,000. But that said, okay, they have raw protein that they can get from rabbits or deer or whatever's out there, and they will eat dogs, they will eat cats or whatever,
And you hear about when they're killing animals and only taking certain parts. What certain parts are they taking? The most calorie
and protein
filled organs, the liver, the heart,
the organs.
That's where all your nutrient are,
Yeah. And also, I'm trying to, I just had a carousel moment because I'll come back to it. It'll come back to me. But, they will raid the farmer's garden, I had to deal with an incident with the Amish people because they were there. I think I told you why I couldn't do it the show last night. They were going up there and they were, instead of going through and just taking what they needed, they were making a mess of the vegetables that weren't even ripe yet. But I think we handled that, and I think they understand that they are to leave that garden alone. Hopefully. But you are dealing with somebody that has a mindset of their own, and it's on their terms whether they decide to do so or not do so,
Right. I got a couple more questions.
But they do eat poop. It's just like to answer that one question.
That's my claim to fame right there. I'm going to ask everybody.
They do, but you think because there's a lot of minerals, there's a lot of vitamins and protein and everything, even in poop. If you go back into a lot of your indigenous peoples, yes, they would do a kill. They take out the intestinal tract and they take out especially for grazing animals, herbivores, and they get a lot of nutrients out of it, making a pudding or some sort of dish out of the poo. You know, the Bigfoot don't exactly do that, but they will eat poo.
Yeah,
And
and that's like what
another
I said
thing they
about the rabbits, or like you hear everybody talking about where they raid their rabbit pen or rabbit coops or whatever, or hutches and all this, but they don't find them eating the rabbits, and you find all these stories about rabbits dead, their heads just popped off or whatever. Well, maybe they are grabbing these rabbits and popping their heads off, popping out the little pellets, and like I mean, I made the joke about them walking around like with M&Ms, but they're ready to eat. They're right there. They're not eating the
yeah
rabbit, but they're eating the nutrients. And if you ever take rabbit poop and throw it on the ground, it's nutrient rich. Stuff's going to grow almost
yeah
instantly. And I don't know why they wouldn't. I know that's a
yeah
joke.
it does.
To our tongue, it's disgusting, but they've never had sugar. They've never, well, until we came in and we've been gifting and feeding, but they've never had the sugar or the caffeine or all that we have. So they don't understand the taste buds. I mean, you watch dogs eat poop constantly, and then you come up and let them love on you. What's the difference,
Yeah, exactly. And they do know that we have what we call sugarcane break that here in Tennessee. It's wild sugarcane that grows. They love to get in that sugarcane when it's ripe, when it's ready to do. But they do have sweet teeth, so to speak. But salt and stuff, yeah, they can get it. I've even seen them crush rocks to get the minerals from rocks and eat rocks, finely crushed.
Calcium or lime and whatever. Yeah, there's nutrients or
Yeah,
minerals in the
yeah,
Janice,
yes.
I would absolutely love to keep talking to you, but I think we're about to go in a different direction. Is there any, and I know you've got things you've got to do, is there any chance you'd be willing to come back and we can go further into the other cryptids that you were about to talk about and some of the tool use and stuff like that? Is there any shot we could do that? If not, that's fine too. Awesome.
Certainly.
I love it.
I'll be glad to come back. I don't even know what my schedule.
Well, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of this. We do what we want to do. It don't have to be tomorrow. Right. It don't have to be. I just want. There's so much more that I can gain from you that I think other people can do. And like you said, Dogman. I know absolutely nothing about Dogman, and it is overwhelming. What's coming into me, reports left and right daily, and it's scary because I told everyone I don't believe in Dogman, but I have to if I'm willing to believe in this stuff. And I'm actually getting more reports in my area of a Dogman than a Bigfoot right now. And I really want to get into that with you just because I think there's other people that are like me that well, let's just focus on this one thing, but I think we need to broaden, and I'm doing that as
you have to broaden it. You're out there. Okay, for instance, where you're doing your research at right now, there are Dogman. There is such thing. It's an imp, for lack of a better description of it. It has horns on its head. It's not as big as a Bigfoot. It does have a tail, and they are maleficent. They are all for themselves. And, you want to be aware that this other stuff is out there because it can be dangerous. Bigfoot are dangerous enough themselves if they want to be. How many times have you walked by a Bigfoot and not know it's there and it could have snatched you bald?
Right. I agree. And they're just, I like I said, some of these reports, a lot of these ain't even in my area, but I know you've mentioned Dogman in the area. And I keep hearing it. People are like, what do you know about Dogman? What do you know? And I'm like, nothing. And so I'm just gathering everything. And I feel like would be more than you wouldn't be Dogman 101. You'd be university level Dogman. And I think that's where we need to go and get there. And we could learn about it. And if you're willing to do that on another one, that would be amazing.
But I will say this. You take away everything from a person, any animal, or a Bigfoot, a Dogman, or anything else. What are you left with? I've taken away your freedom. I've taken away everything that you could possibly think of. You're out there. You're in the wild. what do you rely upon?
Our instincts.
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
going to go by their instinct.
And we can't say their instincts are the same as ours because that's
Because they're
anthropomorphic.
not.
Right.
Yeah. If I take away your house and everything, and you're homeless, you have no way of getting food or anything else, you're going to rely on your instinct to survive. If you are a type of survivalist, you're not going to starve to death.
Oh yeah,
You're
no,
not going to go without shelter. You're going to figure it out. You find you a source of water, food source, and shelter. Basic instinct.
yeah. On that, I'd say we call this the end of this, and let's do. If you're willing to, we'll do another one if you're good with that.
Sure.
Awesome, guys. This has been Janice
I'm good with
Carter.
it.
Needs no introduction. Do you want an outro? I mean, it's been unreal.
Thank you for listening. I hope that we have helped someone in some small way.
Would definitely help me. And with that being said, guys, you can reach me at squatcher1222@gmail.com. And like Janice said, we try to get back to everyone. It may not be the second you respond to us because we have our day-to-day life and we have this going on. And there's more of you guys than there are of us. So if you'll think about that and just be patient, we are trying to respond to people.
I will say this, and I did forget. If you want to go on YouTube and also go on to is Ninja Dave 1970, I think. Anyway, just type in Ninja Dave. There is a lot of videos with me and William Henry, and where we are out in the woods. We're out there doing stuff. We don't always get pictures of the Bigfoot or anything, but we do, we do try to use it as a little bit of a teaching tool, what the signs are to look for. And, and we have good fun doing it.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Fun.
Yeah. Yeah, because we may go months without seeing a thing, and then we may go every night for 9 weeks in a row and see something every night,
Right.
or every day, even.
I'm speechless. I've got so much going in my head and so many more questions to write down, and I know we'll get some more questions off these awesome answers. And guys, I loved it. I really appreciate you, Janice, as always.
Thank you.
Stay in touch, and you have a great night, and thank you so much.
You too. Have a great